Welcome tonight to our board study meeting. It's good to have everybody here. We'll try and buzz through all these things quick tonight. Board, look in your packet. Want to remind you of tomorrow night we have the Certified Employees Retirement Dinner at 5:30. And then next Thursday we have classified retirement dinner. Both of those are over at Jeremiah's Lodge. And then make sure that the graduation assignments that are on the page there still work for you, and we will look forward to a week of graduations, 9 or 11 or something.
Joyous, all of them.
Superintendent, go ahead.
Yes, board, because we have such a packed night and we're going to celebrate so many great people tonight, I just wanted to share one positive happening with you that I think is significant. You'll recall for this last school year, we partnered with a vendor called EduStaff that is a substitute staffing service, and this was due to the vision of our great HR folks and your vision as well to support it and bringing this service to our district. But I wanted to just share a little data with you. We get weekly, daily, monthly reports, yearly reports from EduStaff, and I just wanted to share with you. We'll look at the current fill rates for teacher substitutes. You remember that our employees, when we gathered some feedback from them, one of the things that they were frustrated by was it would have been very difficult to take leave. They were having a very difficult time taking leave and resting because we couldn't find subs, either for our certified or classified employees. But since we brought EduStaff on board, our fill rate has just grown and it's just increased. So right now our fill rate on any given day for teacher substitutes between 85 and 99%. For the month of April, the fill rate was 92%. And our prior fill rate last year, the year before, was around 73%. So you can see that EduStaff is making a difference. Our current fill rate for support professionals is between 50-57%. And that was way down in the 20% range the year prior. We have 815 active subs in Weber School District, and we just want to let you know how much we appreciate. HR would like to help you know that. I think our employees would echo that. The support for EduStaff, we're going to, I think, continue to see really good fill rates moving forward. So I just want to share that with you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Superintendent. Let's have some updates. Mr. Hadley, please.
Sorry. Last minute.
You have a board
So, board, we have two things for you tonight. We have two property acquisitions that we'd like to bring in front of you. One is the Mia Family Trust property. It is right outside of Roy Elementary. We discussed this a little bit with the board before. We have gone through it and it's time to finalize. And the purchase price is $275,000. It's about $14.92 a square foot, while all the property around it is going for a little over $17 a square foot. The use of that property will be to expand either a parking lot, drive-through lane, or some busing. We also kind of own a walkway behind it, so now we kind of expand our ground right there by Roy Elementary, keeping everybody on the north of 5600 because 5600 is expanding. Speed limit's going up, crossing the road. Assistant Superintendent Dave Hales and I and Kurt Wahlberg, I can't count the number of times we walked it, and with UDOT, and Lane's in those UDOT meetings. But we think this acquisition is a good thing, and we want to present that to the board tonight to approve. Do I need to ask for approval?
We will send the formal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Number two.
Yeah.
Hey Larry, the
Yes, ma'am.
community still feels really good about the Hockley, and you haven't heard any concerns from the community?
From the community, no.
Yeah.
UDOT, and it's more the construction company. And I'll tell you what we've heard. They unhooked our water as they did some construction, they did not hook our water back. It's back. So everything's back up and running, but there is a lot of construction going on. Number two?
And Dave,
Yes, sir.
Dave had a comment from Mayor Dan Doy about the,
Yeah, I bumped into him today, actually. He was kind of fun to talk to, and he did say, though, that as they're getting ready to complete that Hawk and that 5-lane road, they're actually asking UDOT to extend the time that the lights are blinking to give the kids just a few more seconds to get across.
I did talk to Matt Glynn about that, and he said he would be in support of that extra time. He would speak to that if we needed him to.
Yeah, they would have to change that because of the expansion.
that's like doing a 100-yard dash now to get across that road.
It's pretty quick. I did not make it. So, yeah,
How soon are we looking to develop that?
Uh,
Start developing that into?
we're not looking immediately. We want to get their construction through, so we're not constructing while they're constructing. But after that construction is done, we can look at, and we'd have to see, okay, exactly what is the best use of that property. So I'll be back with that property once we start the construction. The second parcel of land is coming from an agreement between IFA and the Weber School District to construct a road on the west side of the Wick that turns through what is called Lot 4 and then turns again to the light on 12th Street. We have got the engineers' plans for that. The RFP for construction went out on Tuesday to construct that road. We are still working to purchase this land. It was an agreed upon amount per square foot. We need about 6,813 square feet. Once again, Assistant Superintendent Dave Hells and I and Heidi, we walked this property. We did add a sidewalk to this road going through right behind the car wash and IFA's property. The original plan was to purchase property from the car wash, and that did not happen. And so we ended up buying the property on Lot 4A from IFA. And that was not our idea to buy the car wash, that was IFA's idea. But we have it all mapped out, ready to go. We just need the purchase price of that, and we have the construction, but the RFP needs to go out, which it did Tuesday. Any questions I can answer there? Okay, those are the two things.
Thank you, sir. Heidi Alder, please. I'll come back to you, Paul, sorry.
Did Brock have anything, am I
Yeah,
skipping over?
Well, that was my fault. Brock, go ahead if you have something to add.
Yeah, because we've got a
real quick.
presentation to pull up.
Just wanted to explain how we're going to purchase the land. If you remember, back in September, UDOT bought the 8 lots from us that we had out towards Haven Bay, and they wanted those lots for potential expansion on their end with their roadways. So they bought that from us for $1.86 million. After closing costs and everything went into that, we have $1.7 million. So we're going to utilize those funds to cover the cost of these 2 lots to make sure that we are able to get those.
Thanks. Any questions for Brock? Okay, thanks. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No worries. Okay. We just wanted to, we as in Superintendent and Human Resources wanted to update the board on probably what you have been seeing in the news with regard to House Bill 267. It was initially prohibited us from engaging in collective bargaining negotiations with collective bargaining units. We have negotiated with the Weber Education Association, the Weber Educational Support Association, and the Weber Administrators Association for years and years, and HB 267 would have made it illegal for us to engage in collective bargaining. A month ago, 2 months ago, Laurie and Nicole and I presented to the board what our plan was moving forward to continue to engage our employees, hear their feedback, and move some of our provisions that are found in the negotiated agreements into handbooks and into policies. Well, as you probably heard, over the last several months, their named sponsors of a referendum application, meaning you have to have 5 individuals to apply for a referendum petition, presented that to the Lieutenant Governor. Can I just move forward with this? This is actually, sorry, I'm gonna jump ahead to, there we go. Is it on there?
It's the other way.
The other way?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. I wanted to take just a second, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take just a second and explain the referendum process. This is found in Utah State Code, Title 28. If a legislature passes a bill that is not, is missing something. Sorry, I have some flow chart to explain, but I'll go ahead and just explain that without visual. I'll just walk you through it if that's okay. Legislature passes a bill, and within 5 days of the bill's passage, members who, citizens who don't like the bill, feel like it's not an appropriate law, can apply for a referendum petition or referendum application with the Lieutenant Governor's office. If once that's done, once they meet that deadline, it's a pretty low bar to get that in, then they have 30 days from the date that the legislative session ended to get signatures statewide. And the law requires that the signatures on a referendum petition meet an 8% statewide level, so 8% of active voters across the state have to sign, in addition to 8% of 15 of the 29 Senate districts that we have. So Utah has 29 Senate districts, and in order to have the referendum get to the ballot, the petition has to have 8% of statewide voters and also 8% in 15 of our 29 districts. Once those signatures have been obtained, they're submitted to the county clerks in every Senate district. The county clerks will go through and certify those votes, make sure they're legitimate, make sure there's not duplicate, and then send those votes to the Lieutenant Governor. The Lieutenant Governor then reviews those certifications, and she has 106 days from the date of the last day of the session. So the session ended March 7th, and she has until June 21st to formally certify that referendum petition and then put it on the ballot. At any time between March 7th and June 21st, if enough signatures are certified by the county clerks and sent to the Lieutenant Governor, which is an ongoing process, then the Lieutenant Governor can certify those votes at any time. And once they're certified, once there are enough votes to meet that threshold, then the Lieutenant Governor shall, according to the statute, stay the bill. Or basically, the bill that was passed by the legislature is put on hold. And that's what happened yesterday. We still have about a month and a half, almost 6 weeks before the deadline for the Lieutenant Governor to certify, but there have been enough signatures gathered that have been counted and verified by the county clerks that that threshold has been met. And so Lieutenant Governor, you probably saw in the news, issued a stay or an order staying HB 267. What that means is that HB 267 will not go into effect on July 1. It's as if the bill wasn't passed, at least temporarily. Come June 21st, the Lieutenant Governor is expected to certify the petition and place it on the ballot, place the referendum, sorry, that word should say referendum, not referenced. Place the referendum on the ballot. And then the issue will be decided by the voters either in the 2026 general election, that's the next general election, or it can be decided in a special election if the governor chooses to call a special election. So,
And that would be before the general election?
Right.
Or after?
it would be before. If a special election isn't called prior to November of 2026, then we would decide it at that election. That makes sense. So what now? Well, what Weber School District proposes to the board that we continue to engage with employees from the WEA, WESP, and WAAA to convey the proposed salary and COLA and employee insurance benefits packages for the 2025-26 school year before the end of May, and then issue a formal recommendation for approval to the board at its June 11th meeting. And the reason I put an asterisk by that is because our fiscal year, as you know, begins on July 1. And so any changes to employees' salary or their benefits need to be decided before July 1. While the WEA agreement doesn't expire until the end of September, so we have some time to work with that group to look at what needs to be changed with regard to general terms and conditions. We have the July 1 deadline for our fiscal year. So we want to make sure that we're meeting with those groups, we're getting input, we're providing them information with regard to what we have legislatively allocated to add to the COLA, any changes in benefits, and we will meet with those groups as soon as possible and try to have those conversations with regard to any financial changes this month. We'll bring then the proposals to the board at its June 11th meeting. Then we will continue to meet with those groups throughout the summer to address any other terms and conditions or changes that need to be made to the agreement. Now, our educational support services agreement actually expires at the end of June, and so we will also be meeting with that group and asking the board to extend the current agreement that we have in place for that group through the end of September to align with what we have with WEA, to give us some more time to meet with those groups, get feedback, and negotiate any changes that we might want to put in place for the 25-26 school year. Any questions about that? Okay.
That's a big thing, thanks for.
Yeah, and I know it's been back and forth, and there's been lots in the news and a lot of uncertainty amongst our employees, and I know that the superintendent and HR, and I know the board too, wants to make sure that we treat our employees right and engage in those discussions where it's going to impact their jobs.
Board, one thing I would just add, President, thank you, is we plan to send some messaging out to our different employee groups to make sure that they know what the timeline is, what the series of events will be, and that we're anxious to engage. And I believe that we have really good working relationships with each one of our groups, and I'm so thrilled with that. I think we're going to pick right back up where we left, and our agreements are solid right now. They really are. But we have some work to do and some conversations to have. So I will get that message out to them in the next few days. Okay.
That sounds wonderful. Would you kindly give that timeline to us also?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
I will. I'll send it along to you, Jess. And also on your agenda, your copy of the agenda, I laid out a lot of the information that Heidi has shared too, and we can gladly share these slides with you too. But I will send the email to all of you. Thank you.
Go ahead. I think I'm up next, so
You're
I'll
up
just
next.
stay up here. Okay, moving on to policies. We have 2 new policies and 2 policies that we're submitting to the board on consent. And if it's okay, I'm going to address those 2 policies first because those are short and sweet. In policy 4195, our medication policy, we had to just change the term epinephrine rescue auto-injector to the term epinephrine rescue medication pursuant to a bill that was passed this last legislative session. Didn't change anything substantively, just switched out those terms. The other the other policy that's on the consent calendar is policy 6400, which is our visitors to schools policy that the board just passed last month. We did add a term, remain unlawfully, when it comes to individuals who are here at the school and can be subject to trespassing violations. And that also was pursuant to a bill this past session, HB 477, which added some language to the definition of criminal trespass on school property. So those are the only changes in those 2 policies, and those are on your consent calendar. Then we have 2 new policies. One is a time and effort policy. We've had various departments, when they receive funds from the federal government through grants or whatnot, are asked to submit some time and effort policies and show how we're using those monies, how we're using the federal monies that are given to us. We have been audited by the state, and have been told that we really need to have a time and effort policy that explains how we are tracking the time that our employees are spending when we're paying them out of federal dollars. And so policy 3370 is a policy to outline the procedures for tracking the time and effort of those employees. We aligned it very closely with what's required in the Code of Federal Regulations, and also looked at other districts' policies to determine how they track it. Other districts have also been audited, and we looked at the ones who passed that part of their audit to see if we make sure we have the right process.
My only question was, is this different than what we're currently doing? So, I
No.
mean, so we're kind of just
Putting it in
codifying what we
practice.
already do.
Yeah, and if Brock or Kenny, I know that there's a couple people that have had to deal with this. I know Juliana does time and effort as well. Do you guys have any comments you want to add to that? Yeah, just putting it into policy.
Do we need any links to those forms in the policy, or is that not necessary?
Do we have those? We don't have those forms yet.
The forms are generated through IFAS.
Okay, that was my question.
Specific to, individual employees.
Did you hear that?
Yeah. I couldn't figure out where the voice was coming from.
Sorry, Juliana, Education
I couldn't see her.
Special Director.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, any questions about that one? Okay, then the last policy is policy 7200, salary supplement for highly needed educators program. This policy is required because last year a bill was passed that transferred the responsibility for allocating supplements for highly needed educators from the state to the district. It was a state program. We submitted names to the state, and the state would provide stipends for individuals that the state decided were in highly needed areas. And last year a bill was passed that transferred that responsibility to us as a district. And so we now came up with a policy that determined what employees are in highly needed areas. We met several times with various department heads around Gina's table and determined that for this year we're going to keep the same category of employees that have been receiving the stipend, so nothing's going to change with what it has been in the past. But we did want to give ourselves the flexibility of modifying that as our needs change, as we look forward into the future, and if we have some areas that become more high need areas where we really need to incentivize filling those areas, then we can do that. And that's one of the things that we did right into the policy. We also just clarified what is when an employee is eligible to receive that stipend. The employee has to be a full-time employee working on one of these high needs area, and then we put into the policy some procedures about how to verify that information. And again, that's a practice that was implemented by the state and is now just going to be implemented by the district.
I have a couple questions. So this Shine, we're already doing, this was something that was already doing, they're just moving it to local. So how is that different? Because is it TSSP funds? That's also like, am I making this up? That's also like an added salary for certain teachers, so that's a different program.
It's the same, it
It's
was
the
renamed.
same.
Yep, I know, sorry for the confusion.
And then my other question, no, it's perfectly fine. My other question was under like 5 and 6 of the policy, so it talks about the amount of the salary supplement shall be determined by the board based on available funding. So I was just wondering how that was, like, what our process for that. And then it also talks about if you appeal, that it'll go to a Shine committee. And so that's not defined on who that is. So it's just, those are my 2 questions.
Yeah, and I'm gonna, if you don't mind, Brock, turn it over to you to answer the question about how the amount is determined. We are given a certain amount by the legislature every year, and I'll let Brock explain how we determine that's gonna be broken down.
Yeah, the stipend amount previously was set by the state, and they just paid out to the teachers that applied for that. So there was no cap per district on how much a district was given, because it was dependent on how many teachers applied. The change in this is they're now giving us a set amount, and so we are gonna have to see how many teachers apply and qualify for that, and then we can set a per employee amount for the use of that stipend, and benefits are included in that stipend amount.
So will you guys recommend that to us, and we'll work through that, and then we will approve it? That's the
We've
idea.
set some deadlines on when they have to fill out the application, and that way we know how many people will qualify. We'll do the calculations to figure out, and then we'll work with the board to set those amounts.
And we already know what our allocated amount is.
We do. It came out on the allotment memo, and I don't have it in front of me, but
Okay,
I can look it
no,
up.
that's fine.
And what's the time frame on those applications?
It's in the policy. I think we settled in March, if I remember correctly.
So that was, yeah, I had a question on that. So if it's in March, are they applying for the current school year that they're already working in? So they'll get like money back paid to them for work they've already done? Is that, so it's not like before school starts? Because that just seemed kind of weird to me that you're applying mid-year.
Right, and we
But
talked
that's
about whether or
standard
not to
practice?
grant 2 allotments throughout the year, so one in December, one at the end of the year, determined just to grant 1 allotment. They apply in March, which gives us enough time to review their placement and to make sure that they are in fact in the location they have been working full-time, and that they will finish throughout the end of this school year, and then by June 1, in the policy, the employee will be notified that they are eligible for the supplement.
And they'll just receive it at the end. So I guess that also safeguards us from teachers applying at the beginning of the year and then leaving
Correct.
to another district.
Correct.
Oh, and then my other question was on who
Yeah.
who is in that Shine board for appeals?
And that's a great question. We don't have that spelled out. The bill that passed last year had certain components that had to be in our policy, and one of them was an appeal process. And so the appeal process is for any employee who feels like their teaching assignment is substantially equivalent to a high needs area, that they're in a position that would be really difficult to fill, even if it's not specifically listed in the list on the first page, and then they can appeal to a committee. We didn't spell out who was on that committee. That's something we can certainly look at doing if we want to put that in policy, or we can leave it open and have some flexibility to determine on a case-by-case basis.
And
But I would
then
leave that up to the board.
I know you listed like what teachers who had qualifying backgrounds,
Mhm.
and it talks. So these are the ones that we currently are using, but it could be expanded to other disciplines if we felt like that was. And then because you specifically talk about 7th and 8th grade science, but then I'm assuming there's other science classes besides 7th and 8th. Okay, sorry.
Right, yeah, certainly there are other classes besides those two, but these are areas that have been identified by the state, and we just adopted those for the current year. If you'll note in the beginning of that list, it does talk about these areas may include the following, but they're not limited to the following, and that we can determine each year whether or not those are the ones that would be receiving the stipend.
And then was this the legislation that had all of the different sunsetting, like, which bill was this that changed it? Was
So
it the
this
one that
was-
sunsetted all of those?
No, this was from the 2023 legislative session. It was the Lincoln Fillmore bill that, I can't remember the name of
Okay,
it.
that's
Probably
fine.
it was a Shine bill. They changed it. Any other questions on that one?
If all of that money is not applied for, does it roll over to us, or does it go?
That's a good question.
Back to the
Brock, you know
state.
the answer to that?
That wasn't specified in anything I saw. They just, based on WPUs, they give us estimates, and then there may be some adjustments if we have additional teachers that come in and we're out of the district. But it's not going to be a substantial amount, and I guess as the state will hold on to anything remaining.
Yeah, I would think that we would look at what we have and distribute as much as we can, rather than just a little and give any back.
Exactly.
Yeah. Any other questions on those two? Okay, I will present a much shorter version of those during the board meeting on first reading. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Let's go ahead and take a break, and we'll reconvene, unless there's anything else. Does anybody need to bring something up? Superintendent? We'll reconvene just before 6 o'clock. Thank you.